What is going on, guys? Back at it again with another video. So today's video is going to be on a topic that I briefly touched on, well, a bit more than briefly, but I touched upon in a previous video, and this video is about inflation, but we're going to delve into it a bit more deeply and also how it affects your crypto portfolio, assuming you actually have one. So a quick recap as to what inflation actually is. So inflation is the measure of the rate at which the average price of goods and services in an economy increase over a period of time. Now, amongst investors, inflation is called the non-legislative tax. Now, what do they mean by that? Non-legislative meaning it's not actually, mandated by the government, right? It's not a law in the government that you have to pay this quote-unquote tax, but really and truly it is a tax because every year through inflation your purchasing power decreases over time. I'm going to show you a website where you can do these calculations and you can actually see what's happening to your money. So every year you're losing money, you're essentially giving away money, but it's not on your payslip. So that's why they call it a non-legislative tax, for that reason. And if inflation occurs, it means the buying power of a country's currency is decreasing. And in layman's terms, £10 could buy you 5 sweets today. And after inflation, £10 could buy you 3 sweets because the buying power of that currency has decreased. Now let me show you a website where you can actually visually see just how much your currency is depreciating over time. So on this website, I'm sure you can Google it, just type in inflation calculator. It shows you historic inflation and how the value has changed. This website is able to do that from the 1900s because all it needs is the rate of inflation and then it can kind of do that calculation. So let's say, for example, a nice round number, 10 grand. Yeah, let's see from, let's say 2010. And let's also bump it in here and I'll show you kind of a different way of showing you the inflation. So basically what this is showing you that if you had 10 grand in 2010 and you just had it in cash or you parked it in the bank, that £10,000 today should be worth 13,522 with the rate of inflation, right? But if it's parked in your bank account, there's no level of interest that would get you this much back in even 10 years. So your money has stayed the same, right, in your bank, but the real value has been sucked out of it, right? And that value is literally 13,522. So really and truly, this is showing you what it's worth when you take the inflation away. So really and truly, even though that's how much it should be worth, it's actually been devalued from 10 grand to 7,395. Now, why is that? Why has your money decreased in value, right? And that is because, so you can see, the rate of inflation since 2010, right, in total was 35%, right? So, just to kind of help you to understand what that means is that, as central banks like to do quantitative easing and to increase the supply of money, your money essentially becomes, less, the value of it decreases. And so they can measure that rate of inflation, or the rate at which your money is technically devaluing. It could be like 2-3% a year, 3.5% a year, and over 10 years that's equivalent to 35%. So your money has decreased in value by that much, which is absolutely crazy. But the thing is, you don't think about this. When your money is just sitting there, you're thinking your money, your 10 grand, whatever amount of money, it's just, you're saving it, you're not using it, so it's okay. But really and truly, every year, that money is reducing in value. Every time the government print another dose of, free money, they're printing more money, but they're taking away your money, our money, because, I've also got money in the bank. So, now that you've got kind of a visual representation as to what's actually happening, hopefully you can kind of start to turn some cogs in your head. Now, obviously, as I said, the way they kind of affect inflation is through printing money, but also through interest rates. As they increase the interest rate, they're able to lower the level of inflation. And as they decrease it, they can increase the level of inflation. And inflation isn't all bad, really and truly, because when you have a bit of inflation, it kind of incentivizes consumers to spend their money instead of saving it. And that, coupled with a low interest rate, also incentivizes consumers to spend their money. Now, obviously, this is good for the economy because it kind of increases growth and increases the GDP. So if you've got people spending, the economy is essentially growing. So that is where inflation is somewhat good. But if you had inflation that was too high, then, the purchasing power of that currency would just reduce too much, and everything would become too expensive, so people wouldn't really be able to afford anything. And you've kind of got examples of hyperinflation in countries like Zimbabwe or Argentina before, where people would just use, money became so worthless that they would use it, to wipe their bum, or they would print, thousands of notes just so they can buy a piece of bread. That's obviously the high end of inflation. In the low end, you'll start to head towards negative inflation or deflation. And that would really, slow down the economy because people wouldn't want to spend. They would rather save their money. And it also affects suppliers. Things become too expensive for suppliers, and it really causes issue for the economy. So a good level of inflation is good for everyone. Now, how does it affect kind of investors? There's a reason why a lot of investors encourage people to invest in assets, because assets, they're kind of protected from inflation, because an asset is also technically a good, and because an asset has a fixed or lower supply or finite supply compared to money. As money is printing, is increasing in supply, the asset stays the same kind of supply level. So for that reason, they appreciate with inflation. So if you've got your money, let's say 10 grand parked in an asset from 2010, instead of your money decreasing because it's parked in an asset, it kind of rides the wave of inflation, and it also appreciates in value. And if you have, for example, property, you can also kind of get cash flow from it through rent. So there's more benefits to it. That's why it's much better to have assets these days, because of this inflation taking away your money. Now, property is one example of an asset that kind of protects from inflation, but also equity, and our favorite asset, cryptocurrencies. Now, cryptocurrencies is also a hedge against inflation, or protected against inflation, because a lot of cryptocurrencies are finite in supply. And then when you compare that to the infinite supply of currency, it's gonna increase in value when you compare it to these fiat currencies. So, for example, Bitcoin its max supply being 21 million, and its real supply actually being a lot less, because people have lost their Bitcoins in hard drives when they thought it was worth nothing. So it's actually a lot less. But with inflation, with the kind of infinite supply of currencies, fiat currency, Bitcoin is naturally going to increase in price because it's only a small supply. So just by the kind of factor of basic supply and demand economics, cryptocurrencies are bound to increase in value over time. And then when you add on top of that the use cases, that's a win-win right there. But obviously you got to do your due diligence to make sure you invest in the right projects. But you understand where inflation would be on the side of crypto appreciating in value. So that's what I want to talk about today. I thought it was very important. I know a lot of people understand inflation, but when it's just not in your mind, forget that your parked money is actually it's dwindling in value every year. But obviously in these times, we're going into an economic downturn. It's not confirmed just yet, but over time, I'm sure it will reveal itself. You got to be smart. You got to kind of increase your knowledge so you're fully aware of kind of what assets you want to invest in, and then you got to be patient to make sure you get it at the right price. It's definitely, if you have cash right now, you're in a good position. So I wish you well. I wish you stay safe in this difficult time. But yeah, that's it from me. Peace out.